Hi, everyone. This is Jay Rosenzweig, the founder and CEO of BirthParentFinder.com. And today I'm very lucky to have with me Kim Carrington from Massachusetts. Kim is a birth mother of a client whose case we solved 3 years ago this month. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And thanks again for being here. Now, this is a really good story where your birth child, Victoria, came to us in March of 2020, right during the lockdown. And it's crazy because she had birth records that had your last name on it, but it was never crossed off. So she provided us with her DNA results, and we were able to connect with her aunt, and then that aunt put her in contact with you. And do you want to tell us a story of what happened when your relative contacted you?
So, March 30th, 2020, I got a phone call from my aunt saying, "Sit down. I have some good news for you. Remember all the prayers you've been going and celebrating your daughter every year of your miracle? Well, I have Jay from Birth Finders that want to talk to you. So, here's his number. Breathe, relax, thank God, and make the phone call." So, I hung up with Ian and then I called Jay. And then Jay questioned me of who I was and did I know who Victoria was. And of course, I was excited. I said yes. And then he asked if I can connect with Victoria. And then we did a three-way call. And then Jay dropped the call, and Victoria and I continued talking.
And again, that was 3 years ago, and it was just unbelievable that it was so receptive because not all the time it works out this way. And a lot of times, birth mothers, they don't tell anyone, they take this to the grave. But obviously, your family knew about this.
Yes, my whole family knew from the time I gave birth all the way up until the time I met her. All my Facebook family knew, my job knew. Every year on her birthday, I put up a post and I said, "God, please send my miracle back to me." I put her out in the world to help a family that couldn't have children, but one day my miracle will come back to me and I'll be able to celebrate with her.
And did you ever make an attempt to contact her?
No, I did not. I left it all in God's hands.
Right. A lot of people do that, and that's very. I respect that. And she didn't have any information really, but taking an ancestry DNA test really helped. And having me put the two of you together, I enjoyed that very much. And like I told you earlier, there are very few birth mothers that I follow on social media, and you are one of them.
Thank you. I follow you as well, and I love all your stories. They're very moving, and it helps my heart. So, like my heart, I keep it full by doing things, and by following your webpage, it has so much. The Instagram, it shows what how good your job is.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And then you had that initial conversation with Victoria. How did that go?
Victoria and I, we just talked and we talked, and then she told me about her husband. She told me about her birth parents. Then we communicated. I spoke to her husband. I spoke to my grandson. So I have a 4 year old grandson. And we communicated practically weekly for a while. And then on Mother's Day, I was able to talk to her parents, the ones that adopted her. So I spoke to her mother and her father. We communicated on Mother's Day. And then since then, Victoria and I have been communicating.
And you said that you finally met her last year.
I met her on my 55th birthday. It was I was going up to celebrate my 55th with my sister, and then my brother and my sister-in-law surprised me, and because they knew I was going to be meeting Victoria, so they surprised me at the hotel, and then all of us met Victoria, and we went out to dinner and we celebrated my birthday. I met her husband. He all he kept telling me is Victoria and I have the same demeanor. For me not seeing her for 33 years, we act identical.
Wow. And how many other children do you have?
I have two other daughters. I have a 30-year-old and an 18-year-old.
Did they meet Victoria?
The plan is to meet her this year.
Oh,
They
they haven't met yet.
communicate on text. They do text each other.
Wonderful. And this case took less than 4 days to solve.
Yes,
It,
I
it,
know.
it was a quick one. And And during that time, I located her birth father.
Yes.
And honestly, I don't know what happened with that. I don't.
That I don't know either, but I did give Victoria his first and last name, and I left it up to her to follow through with it.
Right. I know she's in a wonderful place, and to have you in her life is fantastic. She does, she has a great family, and I believe she has all the closure. I don't even call it closure. It's a really a new beginning for her and you.
Yes. It is a brand new beginning for both of us. So she asked me a lot of questions about me, who I am, why I did what I did, and we discussed and we talked. And then I also told her she was never a secret, and she was happy that she was never a secret. Her siblings knew about her, my siblings knew about her, all my family knew. It was no secret.
So you were 18, out of high school already,
Yes, I was in my freshman year of college.
and the birth father, was he a student too?
No, he was a co-worker that I used to work with.
And obviously, the decision was always to place Victoria for adoption.
That is correct.
And did he have any say in the matter?
No, he did not.
Did he know you were doing that?
No, he did not.
Okay, but you knew you were pregnant.
Yes.
Okay, and it's interesting because you were very young, and thinking back about what you did you have any regrets about placing her for adoption and not raising her yourself?
As time went on, I did, but when I did it, no, I did not have any regrets. I was in my freshman year of college. I knew I couldn't provide for her like I was like any mother would be able to, and I wanted her to have a good life, and I wanted her to be in a family of a mother and a father.
And that's a really good way to look at it. And a lot of these cases that we have, these are the answers we get. The birth mother is not in the right place. She wants to give her child a better life, and for the most part, that's how it works out. And
Yes.
so proud of you and proud of what you did and how this all turned out. And you said your kids are going to be meeting up with her in the next few months, or
So right now, Victoria and her husband are trying to fit it in because I travel a lot. So they're trying to fit in based on my travel and their availability at the same time.
so that'll segue into your traveling. I know you do a lot of volunteer work. So what exactly do you do?
So I try to keep my heart full. So I volunteer a lot, but I also work for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. I'm a research analyst. And because I've been there for 23 years, and I always volunteered since I was 16 with my mother, but when I started working for the company, they have a volunteer program that I decided to join, and I work with all different organizations that are affiliated with Blue Cross, and then I venture off on my own to do volunteering with those nonprofit companies.
And I'm looking at an article from 2020 that one of the organizations that you volunteer with, you received an award from the New England Patriots for a difference maker.
Yes, that's my football.
Wow.
So that came from the Patriots Crafts. So Playworks wrote up an article about me, and Playworks is an organization that goes to Boston Public Schools and they do junior coach and they teach kids fourth and fifth graders how to be leaders through game. So I'm a volunteer and I'm also a mentor, and they wrote up an article. They sent it to the Patriots, and I got selected.
That's a wonderful feeling. That's a hell of a football. uh,
Yeah,
are you? I take it you're a big fan. Do you go to the games ever?
I haven't been to any of the games, and of course, when I won, it was during COVID, so I wasn't
Mhm.
able to go to the game. But I did. They did do an article on me. They mailed me my little trusty football that I keep on my mantle because it has the Patriots. It's their football, and it has my name on it. So they recognized me. Playworks recognized me. My job recognized me.
And have you seen 80 for Brady yet?
Not yet.
Well, that's very cool. And going back to Victoria's case, like I said, it really only took a few days to resolve, and it was really during the beginning of COVID, and everything was locked down, and we happened to get really busy at that time. And she was born in Albany, New York. And how did you get to Albany? Because I know you're from Massachusetts. Where did
I'm
Albany fall?
from Boston, so I went to a home in Albany, New York, and I stayed there. And I went through an organization. To the top of my head, I don't remember the name of the organization, but it is in Albany, New York, that houses mothers that are giving children up for adoption.
I'm looking at the information we have. It's not on there. But yes, because when we initially take cases, we figure if the birth mother gave birth in a certain area of a certain state like New York, we figured that's where she was from, but not always. Not
No,
always.
I was
Sometimes
from Boston, and I moved to that home. I gave birth, and while I was at that home, I also did interviews with parents that are going to be adopting kids because they wanted to talk to birth mothers and see how I feel and what my mental state was and what they can do as parents adopting kids. So I used to go to different homes that were adopting kids to tell them why I gave my daughter up for adoption and what to do and make sure you don't keep it a secret and let them know that their mother do love them, but at that time it wasn't correct or the right time to keep the child.
right. And you felt no shame in what you did, correct?
No, I did not.
And that sometimes happens with birth mothers. They place a child up for adoption and they feel they're going to be shamed. And there are organizations that do work with birth mothers to deal with that. And
Yes.
it's sometimes it's very traumatic for birth mothers, not to give birth under those circumstances, but to give the child up for adoption and worry about what other people are going to think. And we get a lot of those.
It is true. When I came back home, I thought I left and it was a secret. But when I came back home, I did get ridiculed. I was called names. I was called I had no heart. But I know what I did. I know I helped a family that couldn't have kids, and they were words. So
And that's interesting. This wasn't really that long ago. It was 1986. It's not like it was in the 60s.
right,
And it's like people are hypocrites sometimes because you could have done something horrible and not
that
given Victoria life and be ridiculed that way.
yes,
Or you could have raised her and not been able to care for her.
that is correct too.
This was a very unselfish move on your part.
Yes, and because of that, like I said, I prayed. I prayed every night. I prayed every year. And at the same time, I did have a little hole in my heart. And I think that's another reason why I volunteer so much because it keeps my that little hole full. And I love to see people happy. So I give back. I give back to a lot of nonprofit organizations. And me giving back helps me. And that's what kept me going.
So you obviously love talking to birth mothers who are in that situation and letting them know that it's okay.
Yes. I've spoke to a lot of people about the situation that I went through and told them if you decide to go that way, just be strong and don't let no one talk you out of it. Because if you do, you're going to regret it later on down in your life.
Exactly. Now you know there's a bill in the California legislature to open adoption records. Basically, where adoptees can get their original birth certificate with their birth mother's name on it. Now, are you in favor of an open adoption situation?
Yes, I am. The time I did it at 18, it was a closed adoption. So, Darren, keep in mind, New York, you wasn't able to get the birth certificate. It was closed at the same time. So when they passed that law, that's how Victoria was able to get her birth certificate that had all my information on it.
Actually, I'm looking at her case. She did not actually have all that
Oh wow. But yeah, it
because
was
that law
open.
passed 1 month before she hired us, and the information wasn't available because that office was shut down because of COVID. So they had a
Oh,
backlog of thousands of cases they had to process. So I
Okay.
believe she actually had a piece of paper with the last name on it, and we actually used DNA and, of course, the last name to solve the case, and of course, your aunt, and just a combination of several things, and it really worked out really well.
Yeah, I was an easy case. I'm still in the house that I grew up in. I so and then my last name, of course, hasn't changed.
And again, a lot of times it does change. I mean, you get a birth mother on a birth certificate, it has her maiden name from 40 years ago. Good luck trying to track her down with her married name. And
Yeah.
that's why they hire companies like ours. But yeah, like I said, this worked out really well. And Victoria is amazing. She has a great life. And let me ask you, so this whole process of working with my company, I mean, like I said, you follow my company, you follow my stories. How does that make you feel?
I am I love it. Like when I it fills my heart. Like every time I see a new story that you connected another parent, I'm like, wow, I hope that person is as happy as I was when I got that phone call.
And like I said, you just don't know. And that's the hardest part of my job is is not knowing how someone's going to react. I just don't know. I do my research, I do my diligence, and I try to be as discreet as possible, like with your case. And with your case, discretion is different when someone takes a DNA test because it's
Yes.
out there already. And
Right.
you have to explain to someone that there is no privacy when your first cousin takes a DNA test because it's out there. And the secret is gone.
Yes. It was my mother's sister that took the DNA test. So that's how you were able to connect so quickly.
And even if she didn't take it, we still would have found you, but not in less than 4 days.
No, yeah, you would have found me because my last name, if you had just typed in Carrington, I'm all over the web. So you would have found me.
Yeah, because I went on and I just before we had this call, I went on ancestry.com and just looked you up. You're there under
Yes.
your birth name.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we close, I just want to ask you what you would like to say to birth mothers who are going through what you went through and what other birth mothers have to go through.
What I would like to say is always remember no matter what your decision is, if you're doing it from the heart, that's your biggest thing to go with. Keep in mind, whatever you do, if you decide to give your child up for adoption, or if you get a phone call from the birth parent finder, be open, be upset, be willing to talk, be willing because it helps the child at the same time. It helps them close that little hole that they had of who they are, why you did what you did, and it makes their life better as well.
And I could not have said that any better. So on a closing note, I follow you on Instagram and you post amazing food pictures. And you are a great cook, a great chef. And can you share with everyone how they can follow you on Instagram?
So I'm on Instagram as sunflower869205, and each number represents the year I gave birth. So 86 is Victoria, 92 is my daughter Lashana, and '05 is my daughter Michaela. So, and sunflower represents me. I always like to make people smile and remember there's always sun around you. So that's my saying. Always keep in mind that the sun is always shining, even if you don't see it. Look within for peace.
That beautifully said, Kim. Again, Kim, thank you so much for being on here today. And thanks for everything you do in your community with the Patriots, with your work. You are a blessing.
I thank you as well. If it wasn't for you, Jay, Victoria, and I wouldn't have been connected. So I thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.